We're the
Bulldogs.
We're in
business.
Business is
good.
We want
Victory.
We expect
Victory.
We will get
Victory.
Ready?
Hey!
We're the Bulldogs. We're in business. Business good. We want victory. We expect victory. We want victory.
I want these kids to grow up and to have healthy relationships and to build a family and, you know, and to have the best in front of them.
You know, it's simply just, what do we want our kids to gain from our program? And it's certainly more than football.
You know, we believe in these kids and we back them up and we support them and they make a poor choice. And you know what? People are going to make poor choices.
And I never had any thought at all of ever being an announcer, but when I came to Plainview here, they didn't have any announcer in football. And that's how I got started.
I'm Mike Burke, and Plainview is my home. Bulldog sports are important to us here, very important. But even more important is our community, our families, and our faith. This is the foundation of the Bulldog way.
Set the edge! That away! Good job, offense!
Small rural towns of Plainview, Elgin, and Millville first came together to establish the Bulldogs in the 1990s. We have to remember that it was always the Plainview Gophers, and our rival were the Elgin Millville Watchmen. The values that are being taught in our sports program is called the Bulldog Way. And I wanted to talk to the coaches that are molding, and I would say even shaping these students and athletes into adults. You know, it's hard to understand what the Bulldog Way was until I read the pamphlet, or I read through it, and then I started to see, and it was, yeah, this is a pretty good rule book, that it, not just in a football sense, but in a life sense.
And, you know, it's simply just, what do we want our kids to gain from our program? And it's certainly more than football.
Yeah, you bet.
The Bulldog Way, you know, when a kid's making the wrong decision or whatever, it's easy enough to say, you know, that's not the way we want to do things. And at some point, they're going to want to wear a jersey with a name on it that says Bulldogs, and that name should mean a lot. Just like the name on the back, you want to eventually pass that down to your son or daughter in good standing. You want to hand the Bulldog name off in good standing, and
Right.
you know, family and faith come first. And I bleed black and gold, and I feel really good. It was I do miss coaching,
I'm sure you do.
but at this point in my life, I don't miss being the head coach. I put all my eggs in this basket, and you know, I've had a happy life here.
It's great to hear that family and faith are still important in our school. A lot of the bigger schools, bigger cities, we seem to be losing that value system of faith and family. And it's great to see that that principle still remains in our small town school.
The Bulldog Way was really important to Brian and I. Brian has been coaching with Bill and coaching here 1 year longer than I have, but you know, we really all three kind of worked together through all of that stuff, and Bill brought it to us, and it was a big part of our philosophy and the way we tried to do things around here. But my background, I guess, coming into that is I come from a single parent family. My parents were divorced when I was young, and the influence I think that a coach can have, especially in those kind of situations. I really grew up without a dad, and you know, my dad is still around, and we see him once in a while, but lives half a country away, and I needed some male role models, and it really turned out to be the coaches in my life and the teachers in my life, and that's really kind of, you know, how I got into this profession, I think. I got a call yesterday from a kid who I haven't talked to in a long time. He's in San Diego, and he's looking at being a head wrestling coach, and you know, and it's that connection that he feels like he can call me, and to know that we don't always know the impact we have, but when somebody calls back on that, you know, they start to realize that this is a pretty big deal. I want these kids to grow up and to have healthy relationships and to build a family, and you know, and to have the best in front of them with their jobs and their family life, and I want them to be men who are there for their kids and their wives, and you know, I think that's a huge thing that we try and reiterate for these kids, there's more to life than just this. And that's part of our purpose theme. You know, there's more to life, and you got to give something back. I don't want these kids sitting in a bar someday, you know, reliving the glory years when they're 50 and 60 years old and talking about their high school days. It's great, but there's more to life than that. And I think our kids are understanding those concepts.
After talking to Bill and Kevin, it's comforting to me, and I think it's also comforting to the other parents, to know that our kids are being coached, for one thing, but they're also being taught a great value system by Bill Erkey, by Kevin Lamb, Brian Brighton, and everybody else that's on the Bulldog staff. It's just reassuring to know that our kids are in good hands.
I want to attend a four-year college and get a major in business management, and then work my life out from there.
When I get out of school, I want to go in the Marine Corps.
I've always wanted to be a cop. I know when I was a kid, I always liked to help people, so I thought I'd try to give back to my community, give back to my town in any way I could.
Well, I'm going to go play college football somewhere. I don't know where yet, but I'm going to major in physical education and coaching, just because I see like what big of an impact all the coaches around here have had on my life, and I'd like to have a good impact on another young kid's life. And
we mow lawns for mainly elderly people around town and some other local businesses. They like trim around their house, trim hedges, mow their lawn, and other stuff. Pretty much stuff that older people can't do.
It should be noted that these kids work really hard during the off season. They're all country, small town kids. They're all working on farms. They're all cutting grass. They're working for landscapers. They're stocking shelves at our local grocery store. I know these kids take a lot of pride in their work. I can see it. I know this pride is going to transfer onto the field this year.
Probably the other really big thing that also helped me with this whole family concept was the Ross Grobe event and when Ross.
4 years ago, there's a tragedy. We lost Ross Lee Grobe. Ross was a tremendous role model to the kids, and to this day, it's hard for me to even to talk a lot about it. The sense when Ross passed, it was almost like a lot of innocence was lost. Our kids always looked up to Ross as 10 foot tall and bulletproof.
I had a really strong connection with him. He was one of my running backs and my linebackers, my position guys, and I worked with him, and he just had the best game face. He had such an intense look, even as a sophomore when he got moved up and played some varsity. He was just such a joy to work with, and he was so coachable, and he had so many friends. And then, when he died so tragically, we're working with his younger brother, and it just really, you realize the impact you have when you get a phone call at 3:30 in the morning from a kid who wants to tell you that his brother is gone.
And Aaron carried it very well.
That when he stood on the field in 2011 after we lost in the state quarters to the eventual champs, and and thanked his brothers, his teammates, for filling in for him and for supporting him through that difficult season and the difficult time he had with tears in his eyes. It had nothing to do with losing that game. I know he wanted to go on, but it was more about the love he had for those guys that were his comrades in arms.
Every year, Kerry Miller, the manager of the Bucks, he put on the Ross Lee Grobe. We're establishing a little bit of a scholarship fund. So we have this baseball game, and it's neat because Ross's brother Aaron, no matter what he's doing, he'll always come and play this game. He'll start out in center field and bat leadoff, and all the money we raise from the game will go towards the Ross Lee Grobe Scholarship Fund. Knowing the history of my town has always been important to me. There's some people in this town that are as iconic as apple pie, Chevrolet, and baseball. And I think all small towns have people like that. For us, one of those persons is Jarvis Anderson.
There probably isn't a single person in southeast Minnesota that's never heard of Jarvis.
One of his all-time favorite sayings is, always smile, because it'll make people wonder what you're thinking about.
A guy named Commissar had a little repair shop, and I knew I'd seen he had a couple speakers he could put on top of his station wagon, and so I talked to him about renting that, and we did. We set it up right down out here. Of course, the football field ran parallel with those four towers, yep. And so we set up those speakers down there, and I had a 10-foot A-frame ladder that I would sit on top of, sitting down here, and I would announce the game.
When you started announcing, Jarvis, in about the mid-1960s, was there one particular person that you tried to pattern yourself after as an announcer?
Well, when I was in college, there was an announcer for the University of Minnesota basketball named Rudy Perlt, P-E-R-L-T, and this guy, he was just one of those quiet, laid-back guys, but when he would introduce the team, it was just, it was a pleasure to hear him, and he just seemed to give everybody credit, whether they were on the other team or on the University of Minnesota team. And I just really respected that guy for the way he used the announcing to just kind of give kids credit, give them credit, and I never had any thought at all of ever being an announcer, but when I came to Plainview here, they didn't have any announcer in football, and so I thought, well, we got to get some announcing going for the game for the kids, and that's how I got started. And
you know, it's important, and I think it's to be known too, that you are a man of faith.
Well, when I come to have a faith in 1977, yeah, well, it just turned my whole life around. I mean, I was a pretty, I think, difficult coach. See, that was where really one of my gods was winning ball games. Oh boy, I tell you, those kids didn't dare fail, because if they failed, made me look bad, you know. But then in '77, when I learned about forgiveness, oh man, that ever changed my life around. You mean this God that we keep talking about? He actually likes us? He cares about us? These kids can fail, and you can still like them? You know, what I did, I can just, oh, I'm so thankful for what I've been given. My goodness, you know.
There's something special about small town values. I don't think it's a knock on the big city, because a person can live in a large city and still have small town values. Because back in the old days, I can remember my grandparents and stuff talking about barn raisings and getting a whole bunch of people together. They'd put up a frame, and the women would all cook, and they'd all eat, and it was a big form of entertainment for them to have a barn raising. Well, I'm kind of in the opposite end of it now. We're trying to save these barns by taking them down, and it's a tremendous amount of work, and it's very hard work. It first occurred to me last March that I'd like to get the Bulldog football team involved in helping me take down this Clausen barn. You know, I thought it would be a pretty great opportunity for the kids to come together as a team. But also, I want to get some of our local employers to come out and see that we've got some hard-working kids around. One of the employers that's going to be coming out to the Clausen barn to watch the kids is Kraske Building Systems from Plainview. KBS is an old company, has been around Plainview for a long time, hired a lot of people. They all have ties to the community. They're really great guys. And I'm excited for them to come out and watch some of these kids, hopefully just knock it out of the park and be impressed by them.
We had all this stuff. We need to get it under cover and dry it out because a lot of people like this stuff, and we're kind of on limited supply other than what we have here. So we got to get it all set up to dry out so we can use it. So we'll load it up on a trailer, and Mike's dad's got a shed we're going to set it in, so at least it won't get any more wet until we can get it stacked up in the shop.
Well, it's great to see the kids out here working. These are all Bulldog football players. Kevin Lamb, Brian Brighton, Jake Thompson, Ryan Marks, all the coaches and stuff are kind enough to let them come out here. They're helping me out a ton by getting this barn down. I had Jim and Lincoln come out here, and it's fun to just watch them work.
My grandfather started in the business back in the 20s, and he built a lot of barns just like this all around the area. There's some of them are still standing. So we've got some history going back to the 20s in the area as builders, and so when Mike's taking down a building like this, it's kind of interesting to me. Like I said, it's kind of a reverse project here, where instead of putting it up, now we're taking it down.
These kids will be graduating soon. Some will go to college, others are going to go to work. They'll be entering the beginnings of their careers. These kids are truly our most important resource. We as a town truly believe that. It's been a pleasure taking a trip through my town and talking with the people that care about these kids as much as I do. Our community of Plainview, Elgin, and Millville is a family that sticks together through thick and thin. My hope is that we, as fathers, mothers, coaches, and teachers, have instilled in these kids the values and wisdom that will help guide them wherever their journeys take them.
After high school, I might join the Army also, or not Army, National Guard, and then maybe play college football somewhere and hopefully be a physical player be or something there.
My family's had deep roots in the Army, and I just like to keep it going.
After high school, I wanted to become an RN because I just really want to help people, and working in hospitals is kind of what my family is good at, so I just kind of wanted to carry it on and be a leader, sort of help people.
Yes, I was at NDSU football camp with him. I wasn't really with him as he got hurt, but he texted me that night and called me, letting me know what happened. He was doing board drill, which is just two linemen going at it, and he said that when he pushed the guy, like they went and like they both fell over to the side, but Ross's ankle kind of like stayed parallel with the ground and just kind of twisted and he fell. And he tore a couple of ligaments, broke his ankle in the process, and he might be out for the first. He told me the first 3 games, maybe even sooner. But hopefully he gets a quick recovery. He's a really big part of our team this year. It's a really good tackle and offensive defense side of the ball. We're gonna need him for the later in the season.